The sound of the rain was soothing, almost hypnotic, as it hit the windshield. Rachel adjusted her scarf and turned to Mark, who was focused on the road. She thought about how lucky she was to have him, a steady, kind man who always seemed to have her back. "What are you thinking about?" Mark asked, glancing over with a small smile. "Just us," Rachel replied, returning his smile. The moment felt perfect until the headlights of an oncoming car blinded them. Rachel heard Mark's panicked yell, felt the jolt of the brakes, and then nothing but darkness. When Rachel woke, the world felt foreign. The sterile scent of the hospital room stung her nose, and the dull hum of machines filled the silence. Mark's voice broke through the fog, soft and full of concern. "Rachel, can you hear me?" She opened her eyes to see his face, weary but relieved. "What happened?" she croaked. "There was an accident," Mark said, his voice catching. "The doctors, they said you'll be okay, but—" Rachel's heart sank. The weight of the words he wasn't saying pressed on her chest. She tried to sit up, but her body refused to obey. The days blurred together after she learned the truth. The spinal cord injury had left her paralyzed from the waist down, and the prognosis was grim. Mark was a rock, tirelessly managing her care, arranging physical therapy, and handling the avalanche of paperwork. "You're amazing," Rachel whispered one evening as he helped her from her wheelchair into bed. "You'd do the same for me," he replied, brushing a strand of hair from her face. But as the weeks turned into months, Rachel began to notice the strain in his eyes, the way his laughter felt forced. She dismissed it, convincing herself it was just the stress of their new reality. One afternoon, Rachel sat by the window, watching the world move on without her. Children played in the park across the street, their laughter faint but tantalizing. She gripped the arms of her wheelchair, frustration boiling beneath her skin. When Mark entered the room, she forced a smile. "Hey," he said, setting down a cup of tea on the table beside her. "Thank you," she murmured, not meeting his eyes. "I have to work late tonight," Mark said. "Just some things I need to catch up on." Rachel nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. He had been working late, often lately. After he left, Rachel stared at the untouched tea, the walls of their apartment closing in around her. She tried to focus on the memories of the life they'd shared before the accident, but a creeping doubt began to take root. Late at night, the apartment was eerily quiet. Rachel sat alone in the living room, the flickering light of the television casting shadows on the walls. She couldn't sleep, haunted by the recurring dream of the accident. It always ended the same way, her legs buckling beneath her, the ground rushing up to meet her. Mark had been in the bedroom for a while. She could hear the low hum of his voice, muffled through the closed door. At first, she assumed he was on a work call, but something in his tone caught her attention. It wasn't the professional cadence she was used to. It was softer, almost intimate. Curiosity piqued. Rachel rolled her wheelchair closer to the door, careful not to make a sound. "I miss you too," Mark's voice came through, faint but clear. I can't keep doing this. She needs me, but—" Rachel's heart clenched. She gripped the armrests of her chair, frozen in place. "Soon, okay? I promise," Mark said before the sound of footsteps sent Rachel scrambling back into the living room. When Mark emerged, he looked startled to see her still awake. "You're up late," he said, forcing a smile. "Couldn't sleep," Rachel replied, keeping her tone neutral. Mark hesitated, then leaned down to kiss her forehead. "Try to get some rest." As he walked away, Rachel's chest burned with the weight of unspoken questions. The next morning, the ache of betrayal gnawed at Rachel, like sharper than any physical pain she'd felt since the accident. She replayed Mark's words over and over in her mind, dissecting every syllable. Had he stayed out of pity? Was he here because he loved her, or because he felt trapped by her condition? Her reflection in the mirror offered no answers, only a pale, tired woman she barely recognized. The spark she used to see in her own eyes was gone, replaced by a dull, lifeless stare. Later that week, Rachel's sister Emily came to visit. She breezed into the apartment with a grocery bag in one hand and a bouquet of bright yellow flowers in the other. "I figured you could use a little sunshine," Emily said, placing the flowers on the kitchen counter. Rachel managed a small smile. "Thanks. They're beautiful." Emily had always been the vibrant one, the fixer. But Rachel couldn't shake the sense that her sister viewed her as another project to be managed. As they sat in the living room sipping tea, Emily leaned forward, her expression softening. "How are you holding up? Really?" Rachel hesitated, the words on the tip of her tongue. Should she tell Emily about Mark? About the doubts eating her alive? I'm fine, she lied. Emily raised an eyebrow. Rachel, come on. I know you better than that. The frustration bubbled to the surface. What do you want me to say, Emily? That I hate this? That I hate myself? That I'm tired of being a burden to everyone? Emily's face fell, her cheerful facade crumbling. You're not a burden, Rach. Then why do I feel like one? Rachel shot back, her voice breaking. For a moment, the room was silent. Then Emily reached over, placing a hand on Rachel's knee. You've been through hell. It's okay to feel this way, but you don't have to go through it alone. Rachel wanted to believe her sister, but the image of Mark's phone call loomed large in her mind. Alone was exactly how she felt. That night, as Rachel lay awake in bed, her mind raced. She didn't know what hurt more, the possibility of Mark's betrayal or the realization that she had lost herself along the way. The person she used to be, the confident, vibrant woman who laughed easily and loved fiercely, was gone. In her place was someone she barely recognized, someone who didn't know how to fight anymore. But as the first rays of dawn crept through the window, Rachel made a quiet vow she would find out the truth. No matter how much it hurt, she needed to know where she stood in Mark's life and in her own. The envelope sat on the kitchen counter, innocuous at first glance. It had been mixed in with the day's mail, credit card offers, a catalog, and the utility bill. Rachel had almost tossed it aside until the name caught her eye. Anna Morgan. She froze. The name was unfamiliar, but the handwriting wasn't. It was Mark's. The envelope was unsealed, as if carelessly stuffed in haste. Her heart pounded as she pulled out the folded note inside. Anna, I can't thank you enough for being there when I needed someone. I'll call you tonight. Rachel's stomach twisted. The words were simple, but their weight was crushing. The internet offered few answers about Anna Morgan. It wasn't until Rachel scrolled through Mark's social media that she found her. A tagged photo from months ago, smiling with a group of coworkers at a hospital event. Anna was young, late 20s maybe, with dark, shoulder-length hair and a warm, approachable smile. The caption revealed she was a nurse at a nearby hospital. Rachel stared at the screen, feeling an odd mix of jealousy and dread. She didn't know what she expected, but Anna's cheerful face felt like a personal affront. She had to meet her. A week later, Rachel found herself in the lobby of the hospital where Anna worked. Emily had reluctantly agreed to drive her, though not without protest. This isn't healthy, Rach, Emily said as she helped her sister into the wheelchair. What are you even hoping to accomplish? Rachel didn't answer. She wasn't entirely sure herself. After a few inquiries at the front desk, a receptionist called Anna down. Rachel sat stiffly, her hands gripping the armrests of her wheelchair as the younger woman approached. Mrs. Donovan? Anna asked, her tone polite but cautious. Rachel looked up, momentarily disarmed by how kind Anna's expression was. This wasn't the cold, calculating woman she had envisioned. Yes, Rachel said, her voice trembling. I need to talk to you. In the hospital cafeteria, Rachel fumbled for words, unsure how to begin. Anna, to her credit, waited patiently, her expression a mix of curiosity and concern. Are you having an affair with my husband? Rachel finally asked, her voice cracking. Anna's eyes widened in shock. What? No, she exclaimed. Wait, are you Mark's wife? Rachel nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. Anna sat back, processing. I don't know what he's told you, but it's not like that. We've been friends. He confided in me about everything he's been going through with you. I swear, nothing physical has ever happened. Rachel blinked, caught off guard by the sincerity in Anna's tone. Why would he talk to you about me? Anna hesitated, then leaned forward. I don't think he knows how to handle all of this. Your injury, the stress. He's overwhelmed, but that doesn't excuse anything. Rachel's anger flared. So you're his emotional crutch while I'm stuck here trying to survive? No, Anna said firmly. I didn't mean to get involved like this, but can I be honest with you? Rachel folded her arms. Go ahead. Anna glanced around, lowering her voice. When Mark talked about your condition, some of the things he said didn't add up. I'm not trying to overstep, but have you ever gotten a second opinion about your paralysis? Rachel frowned. Why would I? The doctors were clear. My spinal cord injury isn't reversible. Anna shook her head, her brow furrowed. I don't mean to give you false hope, but the way Mark described your diagnosis didn't sit right with me. It's not my specialty, but there might be more to this. Rachel left the hospital feeling a strange mix of emotions. Anna wasn't the villain she had imagined, and her concern seemed genuine. That night, as she sat in her wheelchair by the window, Rachel replayed their conversation. Could Anna be right? Could there be something the doctors had missed? For the first time in months, a flicker of something unfamiliar stirred within her. Not anger, not despair, but hope. The moment Mark walked through the front door, Rachel knew she couldn't hold it in any longer. The weight of the last few days had been suffocating, and the confrontation felt inevitable. Mark paused in the entryway, his briefcase in hand. "Hey, Rach," he said, his voice tired. "How was your day?" "Who is Anna Morgan?" Rachel asked, her voice sharp and unwavering. Mark froze, his face going pale. He opened his mouth as if to respond, but no words came. "Well," Rachel pressed, her chest tightening. "She's a friend," he said finally, setting his briefcase down. "A coworker." Rachel let out a bitter laugh. "A friend? Do all your friends get handwritten notes and late-night phone calls? Or is that reserved for the special ones?" "Rachel, it's not what you think," Mark said, stepping closer. Nothing happened, I swear." "Don't lie to me," she snapped, her voice trembling. "I heard you. I read your note. How long has this been going on?" Mark ran a hand through his hair, his expression pained. "I didn't mean for it to happen. It wasn't. It wasn't an affair. I just needed someone to talk to." "You needed someone to talk to?" Rachel repeated, her voice rising. "What about me? I'm your wife, Mark." His shoulders slumped. "And that's why I couldn't. Look at us, Rachel. You're in pain all the time, and I—" He stopped himself, taking a deep breath. "I felt like I was failing you, like I wasn't enough." Rachel stared at him, her anger mingling with a wave of sadness she hadn't expected. "You think I don't feel the same way, that I don't hate myself for what I've become, but instead of facing it with me, you ran to someone else." "I didn't run," Mark said quietly. "I stayed. I'm still here." "But why?" Rachel whispered, her voice breaking. "Out of love or obligation?" Mark didn't answer right away. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely audible. "Both." After Mark left the room, Rachel sat in silence, her mind racing. His words had cut deep, exposing wounds she hadn't realized were there. Their marriage had cracks long before the accident, and the weight of her injury had only deepened them. She hated him for what he'd done, but hated herself more for needing him so desperately. Every time he helped her into bed, every time he brought her a cup of tea, she felt a sharp reminder of how much she'd lost and how much she relied on him. But was that love or survival? The next day, as Rachel sat by the window, lost in thought, her phone buzzed on the table. The number was unfamiliar, but something told her to answer. "Hello," she said cautiously. "Rachel, it's Anna," came the reply. Rachel's grip on the phone tightened. "Why are you calling me?" "I know this is unorthodox," Anna began, her tone hesitant. "But I've been looking into your case. I got a hold of your medical records." "What?" Rachel's heart raced. "How? That's private." "I know," Anna admitted, "but I couldn't stop thinking about what Mark told me. Something didn't add up, so I asked a colleague for help." Rachel's stomach churned. "And," Anna hesitated, "there's a chance your paralysis might not be permanent. Your injury is severe, but there are inconsistencies in how it was diagnosed and treated. I don't want to give you false hope, but you should get a second opinion." Rachel's breath caught in her throat. The words felt like a lifeline, even as doubt crept in. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you deserve to know," Anna said simply, "and because I want to help if you'll let me." Rachel didn't know how to respond. Part of her wanted to scream at Anna for interfering, but another part, the part that had been drowning in despair for months, felt an unfamiliar flicker of hope. "Thank you," Rachel said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. That night, as Rachel lay in bed, her mind was a whirlwind of emotions. Mark's betrayal, Anna's revelation, and the possibility, no matter how slim, that her condition wasn't permanent. For the first time in a long time, Rachel felt the stirrings of something she thought she'd lost, the will to fight.